For the record, my name is Brian Worrell, District 4 City Councilor, and I'm the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Small Business and Professional Licensure. Today is October 1st, 2024. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Fios Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.smallbiz@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called on in the order in which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. If you're interested in testifying in person, please add your name to the sign-up sheet near the entrance of the chamber. If you're looking to testify virtually, please email our Central Staff Liaison, Ron Cobb, at ron.cobb@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket number 1392. Order for a hearing to provide additional support and informational sessions on the distribution of Boston's new 225 liquor licenses.
I didn't hear you. How many?
225
Great.
liquor licenses. I'm excited, guys. This matter was sponsored by Council Worrell, Councilor Louis Jen, and Councilor Mejia, and was referred to the committee on September 18th, 2024. Today, I'm joined by my council colleagues in order of arrival, Council President Louis Jen and Council Braden. I'll first start it off for some opening remarks. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. I'd also like to thank my Council President Louis Jen, who was original co-sponsor on the home rule petition, and also the administration for all your support on this as well. Also like to thank my brother, State Representative Christopher Worrell, who championed this up at the State House, along with State Senator Liz Miranda and all the House and Senate leaders. And with the signature of Governor Healy, we were given this historic opportunity of 225 new liquor licenses. What we're doing here today is making sure that these licenses, which are essentially a golden ticket and an economic tool for a lot of restaurateurs, are distributed equitably across the 13 zip codes over the next 3 years. The first start is making current restaurateurs and would-be restaurateurs aware of the licenses. We can't expect that everyone who operates or wants to operate a restaurant sees an email or social media post. So we just want to hear about how we're going to be engaging everyone and what our outreach practices look like. And then also the second step is making sure that language isn't a barrier and that the application process is transparent and easy to understand. This conversation is to focus on support, awareness, and marketing campaigns, as well as addressing any other barriers such as language access, the application, fees, etc. So we're going to keep the conversation around liquor licenses on those topics. So I know our panelists have a presentation, and I will turn it over to them to start. Oh, and I forgot to announce who I'm joined by from the administration. I'd like to now introduce today's panelists testifying on behalf of the administration. Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion for the City of Boston, Chief Idowu. Chairman of Boston Licensing Board for the City of Boston, Kathleen Joyce. We also have Emily, but what's your title? Sorry.
Neighborhood Business Manager.
Neighborhood Business Manager, and Chris English, Chief of Staff at the Inspectional Services Department, is also here in attendance. I'll turn it over to my council colleagues for opening remarks, starting with Council President Louis Jen.
Thank you so much, Chair, for all of your work on this legislation, 225 liquor licenses. It is indeed a very exciting day. It's actually a cocktail of success and economic development if we get this right. And so I thank you for having the foresight also of having this hearing. I think it's really important for us to make sure we are intentional about who and how we're making sure that people get information about this, especially to a lot of our small business, like you said, that don't see Facebook, that don't see Instagram, that aren't on social media. This is where I think our main streets will also continue to be very, very important, how we engage with them that are already doing really great work and want to continue to support and strengthen our main streets. And so I'm just looking forward to this hearing. I will have to head out, but I know that this is just the beginning of the work that we're going to be doing in partnership very intentionally with community. We highlighted that Mattapan was one of the neighborhoods without a liquor license. There is now one liquor license in Mattapan, but there's more work to do to be more intentional around making sure that neighborhoods that have not had this sort of economic development and this access with our, liquor license system, that they're really able to take advantage of it. So I look forward to more work, especially more work in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Awesome. And we've been joined by a small business champion here on the City Council for many years, Councilor Mejia, our co-sponsor on this original bill. Councilor Mejia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good to see y'all. All excited? Oh, look, y'all scared. We're going to have a good time here. I just wanted to thank Councilor Rorel for really bringing this home, literally bringing it right back to where it belongs, into the chamber, to work in collaboration with the administration. As you all know, I've always been a big champion of information justice, specifically for those folks who English is not their first language, and making sure that folks who are literally dying for resources have access to information that can help support them grow their business. So I think it's really important for us to think about the who, the how, the where, the why, and when, and where oftentimes, right? So I'm really looking forward to hearing the outreach plan and the engagement in ways that we on the council can be supportive of that work. And I'm also curious and looking forward to learning more about the process when it comes before the board and the approvals and kind of like what that will look like. And I know that we passed a few years ago the ordinance around making sure that whatever is in English the same day is translated into the top 11 languages spoken in the city of Boston, and I know that's just the norm in terms of all of our outreach and engagement, but I'm curious what opportunities exist, if any, for some of the, even some of the hearings that we'll have. Commissioner Joyce, I'm not sure if this would be something that we could explore, but I'd love to talk a little about, so I'm going to give you a prelude so that you can start thinking about it. That even maybe hosting one of the hearings or two in multiple languages, specifically in the native language that a demographic comes from. So then that way the hearing with translation, folks can participate. I just think that this moment is going to require us to think about the many ways that we can be creative and really thinking about accessibility in the forefront of those conversations. So looking forward to learning and listening and figuring out how we get there. Thank you.
Awesome. And I just want to acknowledge that Councilor Weber has joined us and also Councilor Flynn. And I just wanted to give my co-sponsors an opportunity to give opening remarks. And the policy is important, but policy implementation is just as important as the policy that we pass. So implementation is key, and now I'll turn it over to the panelists to talk about implementation and getting the word out and outreach strategies that we have as a city. The floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we are very excited actually to have this conversation because to have, normally we're having to deliver not great news that unfortunately we don't have any licenses to support the growth of a business, particularly in the neighborhoods that have had a glut, have not really had the opportunity to have these licenses. So first of all, I want to congratulate the City Council and the state legislature for this historic victory in bringing 200 plus more licenses to the city of Boston. I mean, hasn't happened in a decade, and the fact that we are here to help make sure that we are building on the lessons learned from a decade ago, I think is really exciting for all of us, that we are all a part of history right now. So, and the other thing is that this is, for this hearing and subsequent conversations, it's also that we're building this together, which I think is really important. I think, since all of us have been here, have stressed the importance of working together. And for me, this is just another one of those opportunities to do this correctly together. So thank you for holding this conversation. Thank all of you for your push to get these licenses. And we're looking forward. I said this to the Globe the other day, that when they write the story a decade from now about the fact that we got 200 plus more licenses, that they're going to be telling a really positive story about how this helped transform the city of Boston. So very, very excited. Okay, so all that said, very, very happy to be joined by my colleagues who are going to be helping to push this forward. You mentioned already Kathleen Joyce, chair of the licensing board, as well as the executive director of the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing, Emily Patrick, one of our senior business managers in the Office of Small Business, who's done a ton of work with our main streets and with our businesses and leading our technical assistance program. And then, as you mentioned, Chris English joining as Chief of Staff in Inspectional Services, who's been really important for helping to get businesses over the finish line and open. So any questions later on, we'll bring him up to answer those. So I'll be very brief here because we're actually here really kind of hear what you all are thinking that we can take with us, as well as others who are in the room. Since this legislation was introduced probably about a year ago now, we have been preparing because we knew that with the council behind it, with the mayor behind it, with our colleagues and partners in the State House, that this day would eventually come. And so we've been talking a lot internally about what are the things that we can do to help make sure that we are, like I said earlier, kind of learning from the past. And so two things I just want to talk about quickly today: what we're doing to prepare for applicants who are already prepared and who have been sending in their applications, and licensing is dealing with all the incoming on that. But then also what we're doing to help small businesses who are not yet ready prepare to be applicants. As you mentioned, Councilor, 225 licenses. I think for those who are tuning in, who are here in the chamber, or for those who will watch in the future, I just want to quickly break down what these licenses are and where they are. So there's 225, 198 of those are neighborhood restricted. It means that they have to, there are 5 per neighborhood, that I'll mention over 3 years. Those neighborhoods are Charlestown, Dorchester, East Boston, Hyde Park, Jamaica Plain, Mattapan, Roslindale, Roxbury, South End, and West Roxbury. That will be 195 licenses for those particular neighborhoods. There are 3 other licenses specifically for Oak Square that it's just those 3 licenses, all alcohol, they'll be awarded in that neighborhood. The breakdown of those 195, 3 of them will be all alcohol, 2 will be beer and wine. So that's that. It's a huge set, which we're looking forward to getting out there. There are another 15 licenses for community spaces. These can be anything from theaters, dance halls, et cetera, and nonprofits. And so, we'll work to help make folks prepared for that. The remaining 12 are extremely important. They are transferable licenses that can go to any part of the city, and they can be, and the whole thing about transferring is that they can go from one business to another. These are the licenses that get talked about in the press that cost $500,000-$600,000. It will not cost that much to get it from the city. It will be $0. We will be handing someone a ticket or something, an asset worth $500,000 or $600,000 on the open market. So for us, all of these licenses are important, but really important for these licenses that we get it right in terms of equity and diversity. So just to say, what we're doing right now is, typically how the under Kathleen's leadership, the board has operated is, folks will come, her team meets with folks, they give all the advice and support needed to help get them through the process. That's continuing now. And once they get their completed application, which includes meeting with the community, they will have their hearing. And if it's something where they determine there's a public need and it's important that this business have the opportunity, under Kathleen's leadership, what they've done is 2 things. One is to, and she'll correct me if and really when I'm wrong, that it used to be, if you're approved, it's 30 days, that you have to see if another license is available. Kathleen and the board have expanded that to a year. But the other important piece is that they will approve you pending availability for that year, meaning that you're part of the approved category. If a license is available, there's the opportunity to get that license, which I think has been critical. But because we know we're going to get a ton of people that are interested in this and who are going through the process, one of the things that we're introducing here is kind of doing these in batches. So rather than one by one folks coming up, getting approved because it's a really great concept or it's going to be in an important neighborhood or whatever, and pending approving pending or approval pending the availability, kind of essentially just handing people licenses as they come in. We're going to be reviewing these in batches so that we understand the full landscape of who has applied, what their concepts are, what the public need is, and to just give the board a better sense of what makes sense in terms of how we award these licenses. A couple things, though, that all entails that people have actually applied. So, of course, the word has to get out, though. And there were some people who, as soon as, forget us talking about this out loud, as soon as you filed notice that this was going to be on the agenda in the council, that we were going to talk about more licenses, folks were getting ready, the people who were plugged in. And so our goal is to make sure that every single person has an opportunity, not just folks who have been in the know for a long time or who have access to attorneys that cost a lot and might be a job I do after this, but charge a lot per hour, right? But we want to make sure that everyone in our community has an opportunity. So in order to make sure that everyone is prepared and knows about this, a few things are happening. One is that just yesterday we had our first public webinar that the mayor attended. We had roughly 150 folks on that call, which was great, a broad swath. I was looking through the list to see who was on there. We had interpreters on the call to make sure that it wasn't just in English. To Councilor Mejia's point, we take very seriously that we need to make sure that all communities are represented and have access to this information. So we'll be doing dozens more of these calls over the next 3 years. We're not going to assume that because we put out something on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or sent a letter that everyone knows is going on. So there'll be a ton of those happening. The licensing team continues to do virtual and in-person support, office hours every other Wednesday. They're making sure that their office is open to folks to walk in. Obviously, we prefer folks to make appointments, but you just walk in and need some help. I mean, Kathleen can share later, there's folks that have come in where they've spent 6 hours or longer to help walk them through the process. And we're getting this information out in multiple ways. One is, of course, yes, using online, but we're really relying on the folks in this room and all of our community partners. Councilor President Louis-Jean mentioned Main Streets. There's a handful of folks that work in licensing. We don't want to just make them responsible for doing every single thing here, as capable as they are. We have enlisted the neighborhood business managers and our small business team, as well as the ONS liaisons, to make sure they at least have the basic information to be able to share out when they're out in community. But we've also enlisted our Main Streets directors to do the same, to bring this information to the businesses that they're working with in their squares. We would love for all of you as councilors, whether you're district councilors or at-large councilors, to share this information out as well. We're attending whatever meetings folks set up for us to come attend. Would love it if councilors are hosting their own sessions. You have your network and your base that you work with and that you touch. We would love for you to organize your own opportunities to bring us in front of your constituents to share this information out. And for at-large, we know the whole city is covered by you, but we're happy to go wherever you tell us to go or what space you make available for us to attend. In addition to this, we're also going to be meeting with distributors to talk with them about the process and about how to work best with our small businesses. And we're engaging different property owners as well, because it's not just about the business being prepared. Again, the council president mentioned Mattapan that had very few licenses. And I know when we had this conversation here as a hearing, one of the things we talked about was that partly it's because of the lack of spaces that can hold restaurants or other types of businesses that could take advantage of these licenses at that time. And I think right now there's Plan Mattapan that's going to bring new development to the area, our Squares and Streets initiatives that will allow us to use those as vehicles to create these spaces to then be able to potentially award these licenses. So lots going on that are interconnected and to be able to work together. So that's what we're doing on the making sure people are aware, and I'm sure that there's things that I've missed that others will fill in. The other piece, though, is how we're preparing businesses. So some businesses either don't know that this is something that they can take advantage of or think is too hard, or there could be a business that they sell food but they don't currently have a bar in their restaurant, or they don't have relationships with distributors to think about how they would get access to that. And so a ton of things that Emily and team are doing on the technical assistance side that we started sharing yesterday and will continue sharing. We have a ton of TA related to business planning and strategy. One of the things that the licensing board has shared out is that you don't have to have a space already. You could have just a concept of a plan and a letter of intent, right? But that doesn't mean that if you haven't started the business, that's nothing against you applying for these licenses. We want to help people be ready. So business planning and strategy, architectural rendering and support. So again, like I said, if you don't have a bar in your restaurant, we want to help you build that bar, and come to us, and it's free for you, but not for us, right? But we want to provide that support for you to help get that those renderings, marketing and social media, that when you get your business stood up and you get this license and open and you're ready to start selling, making sure everyone else knows that you're here. And so marketing and social media support, website development, legal support, which is something we brought on, particularly after the space program, and restaurant and food industry support. And then we have revamped our Restore program, which will be sharing those details shortly, to streamline the process, provide more money when it comes to signage and storefront improvements. So that's just some of the work that we've been doing. However, we know that there's more to be done, and that's great, because we don't believe that we can have come up with everything that we need to do, and that's why we're here today. And so it's really exciting to be here. We're looking forward to hearing from my friend here, who has been actually, like I said, since the legislation was introduced, there are some folks who like laser focused and began reaching out. My friend here is one of them, and has been doing a lot of great work, and we're looking forward to his presentation. But again, we're looking forward to learning from all of you. So I'll end there after filibustering.
Thanks. Chairman Joyce?
I'm happy to be here. I defer my comments to the chief, and happy to answer any questions for you.
Awesome. Emily?
Ditto.
Ditto. All right.
This is Emily's first hearing, by the way, here.
Oh, well, welcome to the chamber.
Thanks.
So be nice, be nice.
Nick, the floor is yours.
So first off, just thank you to the chair and to the council, and for my esteemed co-panelists for being here. Before we get started, I just want to, again, celebrate Kathleen and her team and the whole licensing team. Anytime anyone contacts me, and I recommend for the counselors too, with questions, they're so accessible. They actually answer the phone, actually answer questions. It is inspiring that government's so accessible and has our best interest at heart. So thank you for being so accessible. Just as a means of a very quick introduction, I've been working in restaurants in Boston for almost 20 years. And I've been really fortunate to work with and for amazingly generous people who have shared their experience and their expertise with me, who taught me that what we know is not ours, it merely passes through us. And I'm part of that lineage and have a responsibility to turn around and lift up the people who are coming up, just as those before me did for me. So that is the capacity in which I'm here today, to include the voice of restaurants in the planning process. And I'm so excited to hear from the administration that they're excited to collaborate with so many people who want to support this being as successful as it possibly can be. I have a presentation. I didn't realize that we were going to be going that deep into it, but I'm happy to kind of run through this presentation as a way to organize some of the conversation. And just to provide a little bit of context, I think we ended up with a great bill. And again, all the credit to the chair for starting the ball rolling. But ultimately, the bill we ended up with is structured based on equality and not in equity, right? Each zip code has the same number, as opposed to how much need, or without sense of how much need or how many they already have. And so I just want to caution, and that's sort of the organizing principle of this conversation and presentation, that we don't make the same mistake in the rollout. And specifically, you know, as the chief said, with awareness raising and support through the licensing process, and ultimately the capacity building for folks who get these licenses, that we're not just providing the same amount to everyone, but we're providing extra energy and attention and support to the folks who need it more. And I think there's a ton of amazing learnings from 2014 and from other times since then. And I'm so excited about having this conversation in the chamber, and hopefully it's just the start of a long collaboration. So without further ado, I kind of hate giving PowerPoint presentations, but here we are, and we'll use it as a visual. So just as a quick introduction, and I think the chief mentioned it earlier, we started this whole process by publishing a report. And the idea was to be a tool for lawmakers like yourself to make data-driven decision-making. And so what we're hoping is that as we sit today thinking about implementation as opposed to policy, we do the same thing. We center the voice of operators in the conversation. There's a bunch of them in the room today. I'm really excited to hear from them. We increase the transparency in how this is all happening. And again, we focus on equity. Apologies, I'm doing this in two places. So again, just to reiterate the kind of organizing principles, centering operators' voices, increasing transparency, and focusing on equity, I think have to be the sort of three pieces. And the first piece about centering operators is that operating a restaurant is a really hard, more than full-time job. And I think there was some intimation both from the council and from the chief about needing to meet people where they are. And so here we have operators who are spending a ton of time in front of a customer, in front of a stove, instead of in front of a computer. And there's tons of kind of additional limitations. And again, I'll let the operators who are in this room share their thoughts. I'm happy to share more with the team and also with the council. But we just have to be really constantly question our assumptions about how people hear about things. There's plenty of folks, despite the Globe covering this extensively, there's plenty of folks who still don't know that this is happening. And it's our duty, again, to invest more time and energy into the people who aren't sitting at the top of the stack. In terms of transparency, I think the licensing board and the many departments from the administration are doing a great job of continuing to share the changes and the updates and the information that's there. But I think it's really important that we set clear expectations. And again, I'm so excited about that tranche of licenses and the sort of deadline for applications that's coming. But it's essential for folks to be able to have the privilege of planning to know when those licenses will become available, because the clock is ticking on their business and folks need to know how many months they have to burn before they can start to open. The other piece here is, I think, proactively publishing licensing board policies. And again, I think yesterday was an amazing first step, or not first step, but an amazing large step for this particular group of licenses to start to share the information about when things will become available, what is allowed and not allowed, so that folks can go in. Again, if we think about the point here of allowing people to make data-driven decision-making, data-driven decisions about their business, as opposed to having to make mistakes that can be really costly for small business. In terms of increasing transparency, another idea that I would highly advocate for is putting out some kind of dashboard. There's constantly conversations happening where folks hear a rumor or they, through their lawyer, find out that a license has become available. And again, if we're thinking about equity and centering the folks who need the most help, we want to make sure that they have the same access to those licenses as the people who happen to have an inside track. And again, I think the licensing board is doing an amazing job of trying to be as open and transparent as possible, but this seems like a really straightforward and easy way to answer the question of how many of these licenses still exist in my neighborhood, and again, arm our small business operators with the information that's accurate and up to date to make data-driven decisions about their business, as opposed to getting all the way through the process and finding out perhaps there aren't licenses available for their category. To continue down the transparency road, there's been a lot of conversation about the diversity and the demographics of the folks who currently hold liquor licenses, and then obviously there's concerns about the folks who are applying for new liquor licenses. And so there's a once-in-a-year opportunity in November when every licensee has to renew, where they have to interact with the board. And so certainly there's considerations about protected classes and legal concerns that are totally reasonable, and that, but I believe there's a creative solution here where all in 1 month we touch every single licensee and we have an opportunity to show accurate demographic information. Something that continued to come up throughout this process was people asking, well, how many licenses are held by someone who self-identifies as X? And the only answer is, we don't know. And so here's an opportunity to set that. And one thing, again, that I'm so excited and optimistic about the current administration is the willingness and the readiness to get baseline numbers, regardless of how bad those numbers might look, and using those as an opportunity and a driver to show improvement. So here's an opportunity to show what we have, and I believe that immediately can show improvement as opposed to not knowing where we're at. And then obviously there's a challenge of how this can also be done for new applicants, where in a way where it's not tied to their approval. Again, there's way smarter lawyers out there. I'm not a lawyer who can figure this out, and you'll see a quote from our mayor from quite a while ago asking for just this. So again, I think we can go pretty quickly through these, but essentially the same categories that the chief laid out. First, raising awareness. Second, supporting the application process. And third, building capacity for folks who have a license. So the issue with raising awareness is that there are still tons of people out there who don't know these licenses exist, or they don't think that they're for them, or they are unclear on the process of how to acquire them. So again, I think we have an amazing start, and I want to just again laud the city for moving quickly and doing a phenomenal job of getting the ball rolling and asking for more collaboration and more spread. But I think this is something the council can really help with the deep, long relationships y'all have in the community, to make sure that everybody who could know about this does know about this, and that they have an opportunity to make a decision whether they want to apply, as opposed to the folks who apply are the ones who happen to know about it and happen to get through that process. In terms of continuing and what we're proposing, I think we can do an integrated strategy, right? Beyond just social media posts, there's a huge way to get in front of everyone, and the kind of key piece that I want to propose today is a door-knocking campaign. Because essentially every elected official here is familiar with the process of door-knocking, and you have a voter rolls upon whom you will call. We have a countable number of people who have a common victualler license and don't have a liquor license. That is the voter roll. And when you start to break it out by neighborhood, by zip code, it's a totally acceptable number, especially given, as the chief mentioned, the fact that this is the council, the administration, the state house, the main streets, community organizations. We have a whole army of people who want this to be successful. Some of these, getting in front of 47 businesses in a neighborhood isn't that hard, especially if some of these businesses already have attended an information session, already have engaged the licensing board. This is the total number given the information that's available on Analyze Boston. So moving down to the second, is this okay to just keep rolling through this whole presentation?
Rolling.
Okay. To the second, supporting applications. We all know that the application process is cumbersome. We know that the administration is available to help, but there's a whole list here of expected skills and characteristics that essentially an operator must have in order to be successful in the application process. Again, this is assuming that they aren't engaging with a lawyer, and that's a whole nother conversation. But tons of characteristics are assumed necessary for someone to be approved for the licensing process that have nothing to do with being a successful food business operator. So ideas like public speaking and the ability to convert PDFs are things that you don't have to serve great food, to offer great hospitality, to have a good business, and yet you need to have those abilities in order to successfully complete the application process. So again, I think the office hours from the administration is an amazing start. I think the accessibility of that team is great, but I think there's more that we can do. So what we're proposing is that let's blow it open and think about what's possible in terms of alternatives to hiring a lawyer. How can we provide some support to these operators to get through the licensing process that won't cost them a significant amount of money, especially because some of these businesses are already cash poor. The restaurant business has notoriously thin margins. And one of these pieces, I think, is thinking about a step-by-step guide. And I think we're getting there, and there's a ton of support. But thinking about a way that someone could actually have all this information in one place. And then the last piece I have on this slide is thinking about what is like a lead tracker or something like wraparound services look like. So again, imagine we have a community meeting, we have someone show up who says, I'm interested in this license, and then we never hear from them again. If we're actually centering equity in this process, that's the person that we have to put more energy towards, that we need to follow up with to ensure that they don't wash out of the process just because they might not have the time, the language access, the technical acumen, any of those other characteristics that I outlined. And then lastly, we have building capacity. So the issue here is that there are tons of folks out there who have great and successful food businesses, but maybe have never sold alcohol before. And there's just a whole panoply of other elements of business operations. The chief mentioned some in terms of ordering with a wholesaler as one example, but responsible service, how to cost a menu, how to write a cocktail list, how to manage your inventory. These are all things that tons of us have done many times. All of us are willing to share that information in the same way that those that came before us shared it with us. And here we have an opportunity to continue to invest in the next generation of restaurants in Boston. Again, we have a great start from Emily's department and the rest of the administration, but I think that we can do more. And so lastly, what we're sort of proposing here is that we, first of all, center our industry voices. So ask operators and their staff what they want and need, and then provide it free of charge. We do additional effort to focus on equity. Again, so think about the same things we learned from awareness raising and from helping people through the application process, ensure that we're investing more energy in the folks who need more help. And then lastly, roll out some industry-specific TA or capacity building services, things like a boot camp for new bar managers, workforce training for new hires, and upskilling for existing employees who might be working at a food takeaway or a counter service place and are now working at a full service sit-down restaurant. And then product knowledge information and classes about wine, spirits, cocktails, etc. So that sums up my presentation. Again, I'm sorry to take up so much time, but I really appreciate the council taking up this conversation, the administration being here, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick, and very thoughtful and comprehensive plan that you have. And Nick and I met in, I think, 2022, 2021. At Ripple Cafe, and he's been on this journey even prior to us introducing the home rule petition here on the council. So thank you for your continued advocacy and your support throughout this journey. And now I'll turn it over to my council colleagues. But first I want to acknowledge that Councilor Fitzgerald has also joined us. But I'm going to go with one of my original co-sponsors first, Councilor Mejia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And I think what we're going through is this exercise, right? And I'm so happy to see members of the public here. Hopefully y'all already signed up to speak and y'all gonna tell us what we need to do, right? But yeah, no, I think what I'm curious about is the implementation and the rollout plan. So I'm curious about the first set of deliverables. Let's start about, like, so do we have the social media content? Are you going to share it with our office and then we disseminate it? Sure, what's the timeline?
Well, since even when this got held up at the State House, we started pushing stuff out, because what was important is that people just started applying, right? We didn't want people to wait until the governor signed it to then learn about the process, right? And it can take a while. understanding the application has just been shared. We use the ABCC application, which, I'm not going to argue about the technicalities and the jargon because, yeah. So anyway, we've been putting all that stuff out there right now. Happy to forward it to your office. But yes, we've been sharing it for almost a month now, more than that.
But what's the timetable? Like, the information has been disseminated. When are we going to start rolling out? This is like, walk me through the process.
Yeah.
Applications are on a rolling basis. People can apply whenever. So I don't know, Kathleen, if you want to kind of
Sure.
Yeah,
explain
because
that.
I think what's happening is that this is what I've been saying a lot in this chamber is like there's a privilege of information, right? And there's some people who understand it because you guys live it and you have been in the weeds, and then there's some of us who are just trying to catch up to y'all. So what I'm trying to do is for those, specifically those people who follow us, is to hear from you all kind of like your timetable. Here's where we're at. Here's what we've been able to do. How many people have you reached so far? How many, like, what's the next phase of the rollout? Just
Sure. We're in our first phase of the rollout. We have various social media posts already live on our website and on our social media pages. Very important to point out that, again, we want to establish that there's public need for these licenses. So previously, under other boards, people would not apply for a license unless they knew there was one available, because your application was only active for 30 days. As the chief said, we extended that for 1 year. Licenses come and go. Putting these ones aside, every single year, every single license applicant needs to renew their license in the month of November. Believe it or not, sometimes a licensee will decide they don't want to be in business anymore and their license will be returned to the city. So sometimes, like Mellow Vibes, we're all very excited that they did receive a all alcohol 4-value license. The timing worked out for them. Their application was in October. We didn't have a license until the following February when Durgan Park decided to close and they didn't want to use their license anymore. I didn't put out a big press release. I issued the license to Mellow Vibes without any fanfare, and they were able to then operate as a licensed establishment that served alcohol. But given these new licenses, we believed they were coming because of the hard work the mayor did in your office, you guys all did at the State House. So we wanted to get the process moving right away. We did what we could. We started in August having every other Wednesday office hours, meeting with people, showing them the kiosk we have in our office in case they don't have access to a computer themselves at home, walking them through the ABCC application, which is our application. Every municipality in Massachusetts uses the same application. It's the ABCC application, and it needs to be filled out online. Can't be filled out in pen. We have made a decision. I believe we're going to, as the chief said, we're going to batch these new licenses together so that we can look at the universe of applications all together. We're not issuing them on a first come, first served basis. Again, everything goes back to public need. We believe we're going to get multiple applications in certain neighborhoods. For instance, we have multiple applications already in Jamaica Plain, Brighton, High Park, the North End. So we want to make sure that these licenses are put to the best use according to the standards that we analyze these applications already. And so we want to allow people to get their application in order, to work with the community, to work with our staff, and prepare to present the best proposal possible. So we'll be looking at those and these new licenses. I don't know if you want to talk about dates, but...
Yeah, so in terms of timeline, at least, December 6th is the first. So anyone who submits a completed application before December 6th, that will be the batch that the board is reviewing comprehensively.
great. Thank
We already have 16 applications since September 1st.
See, so I appreciate your patience and tolerance of all these questions, but I am learning to make no assumptions because the people who are following this are hearing this, even though you've done a really amazing job at getting the word out. This is like the first time where people are actually able to then rewind the tape and listen and hear from you all directly. So my voice is just here serving as a microphone. So please take it from that space. Like, I am here to just channel the energy, the chaotic energy that exists in these streets. I'm bringing it in here. And people just want to make sense of the Da Vinci Code that we're trying to crack right now. Okay.
Well, can I ask, Councilor, so as to not take away time, though, from Councilor Mejia, would it be helpful for the council for Kathleen to just walk through, because I'll just say, even for me, when we first started talking about this, it was like, I said to her and Danny Green, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old and walk me through the whole thing, and
See, that lady's shaking her head over there, right? Like, you understand what I'm trying to get at, right?
Right.
Because what happens and what I'm learning here, I've only been here for 4 years, but I have come to realize there is an information gap. And there's a deficit here that I'm grappling with, and that there are folks who understand it all, and there are people who are still trying to catch up. And so I want to make sure that even if I only have 6 minutes on the mic, that 6 minute, even if I spend all of it in just the process, then that's my time. Because I think the people who are trying to get their heads wrapped around this are just as lost as folks who can most benefit from it. So what good am I if I'm not using my time to walk me through bit by bit? So I don't want to derail the conversation, but I do think it would be helpful for those folks who are tuning in to have the breakdown. And I don't want to use all of my time because I do have other questions, but that's one. We need to figure out the timeline and the process and the do's and don'ts. And then I think the other piece of that I've been hearing from folks is kind of like the feedback loop. Because sometimes when people get denied or they're unsuccessful with their application process, they want to know kind of like, what is the feedback? What type of information are we set up to provide folks in terms of what they can do differently if and when the opportunity presents itself? And what's the backup plan? What's the backup plan if folks still really want to be able to operate? Can you do something collaborative? Can what's the innovation behind crowdsourcing or co-sharing? I don't know if that's legal or not. Sorry if it's not, but what I'm trying to do is figure out how many barriers can we remove and how many opportunities can we create for folks in ways that we during this hearing can really be innovative in thinking about the barriers and also the ideas. And I know I said a lot, so Councilor Chair, you can figure out what you want me to say.
No, you guys could definitely answer her question first, and then after you answer her question, I'll give some of my time for Chairman Joyce to go over the process and all the timelines and applications.
So the question is on, on the timeline piece. So again, December 6th is when we want to get as many completed applications as possible. And as I mentioned in the opening remarks, tell us where to go, bring us wherever to get the information out. I'm going to follow up with Nick on the door knocking campaign. I do have shoes that I wear for that, not necessarily sneakers, but I'm ready to do it. But to get the information out there and get folks as much information as they need to feel as if they might be prepared to do the completed application, but also to convey to people that this is just the first round, that there will be 2 more coming, because you've got 3 years to distribute these licenses. So people don't need to rush right now to get into the line. But that's also the importance of doing this in batches so that we're looking at everything as opposed to just awarding based on who is in front of us.
So the question that most people have, if they don't make the December 6th and they get denied, and you're giving people, the 3 years, can they reapply for the following year? Those are the sort of technical things that people are asking.
So that's an easy one. If they don't receive a license through this round, their application is active for 1 more year. So they don't need to do anything else.
So it just resets?
It just remains active as if it's on an imaginary shelf in the office.
But if their license, if they didn't get approved because their application...
I can talk a little bit about
what
we're thinking.
Yeah, please.
So, do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so please feel free to interrupt with questions because, like you said, I'm sort of in the weeds here, so I'm trying to break it down into more easy to understand steps. So first, if this is an applicant who does not already have a food business, let's say it's someone who would like to open up a restaurant that serves alcohol in a vacant space or a place they haven't yet identified, they do need an address. So you can't just apply for a license in the general area of Mattapan and hope within the next couple of months or weeks that you can find a spot. But what you can do is get out there and have conversations with landlords. You don't need a solid lease, but you do need a letter of intent that from the landlord that says the landlord and you have had these discussions, and should a license be granted in this space, that you plan on moving forward with this concept. So that's the first thing. You need proof of the right to occupy, and that can be a letter of intent. And then you need to go onto our website, and while we're talking about our website, I want to invite everybody to join us on October 9th at 3:30. We have a webinar with the ABCC. The executive director, he and I are actually going to go through an actual application and help people walk through our website. Because I know I always say it's on our website, but our website really is not as intuitive as it could be.
And it's going to be recorded so people can go back and look at it.
Yes, so we're going to post it on our website.
And we'll work with interpretation to make sure that it's accessible.
Good job.
Okay, I'll let Emily talk about helping people negotiate the commercial leases in a little bit. So you need to fill out your application. If you don't have access to a computer, we have a kiosk in our office. You can drop in without an appointment, or you can call and make an appointment. You can call and just ask to speak to one of our licensed administrators. They'll help you fill out the application. So you need to submit to us a completed application, which is the ABCC's application, your letter of intent, and you upload that to our portal. There's a couple of other documents as well, but those are the basic documents. Once we have, we will guide you to reach out to the Office of Neighborhood Services, and they will determine whether or not you need to have some sort of community process. So that could be just flyering your abutters. It could be, they could ask you to meet with the community groups, but the Office of Neighborhood Services determines what kind of community process would be required for your application. So once we hear that you've had the community process, you filled out your application, which includes the right to occupy a space, we will schedule a public hearing. And we can answer any questions about how to prepare for that. We post all of our public hearings on YouTube, so people can actually log on and see what common questions are and how a presentation actually goes. And again, there's 3 commissioners, and we're all trying to see what sort of need there is in a particular neighborhood for this type of concept. We look at a variety of factors, and we'll ask those questions to get those answers on the record. What we plan to do with these applications that we are accepting up until December 6th on a rolling basis is we will schedule public hearings, but we will defer the actual vote until after December 6th so that we have all of the applications in at one time. So very few applications get rejected. We probably wouldn't put them on a hearing unless they were ready for prime time. What we do is we take a vote. Our vote up until now, when we didn't have licenses, we would approve it pending the availability of a license for which they qualified. Should a license come back to the board for whatever reason, a restaurant closes, someone decides not to move forward with the concept, we would get those licenses right out the door, because that's when we had a scarcity of licenses. We would wait and wait and wait, and then try to match them up with an application that worked with the particular license that became available. So this is what's important too, is once we approve your application, the application gets sent to the ABCC for further investigation and review. They assign an investigator to every application who then goes out and visits the premise and probably talks to whoever the manager is going to be and asks, I don't know what they ask, I'm not involved in those communications, but that also takes several weeks.
Is that an outside inspector or a
It's
city?
a state inspector.
A state, okay.
Once the ABCC tells us that they have approved the application, they notify us, and we issue the license to the licensee.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. And I hope for those who are watching and those who are here, look at them. All of them are shaking their head. They appreciate that breakdown. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. And I'll wait for my second round of questions.
Thank you for that. And just for my clarification purposes, if the board, the licensing board, is rejecting, because you're gonna have this whole batch, are you just gonna be approving?
We're not going to reject, unless we
Okay.
don't believe there's a good application. We're going to be deferring our vote. We're going to have a full hearing on an application, but we're going to actually defer our vote to a later time after the December 6th deadline so we can decide which applications are best served by the licenses that are available.
right?
Okay.
So for instance, since we only get 5 per
Right.
year, just because the board does not, but we might get oversubscribed. For instance, like East Boston, for instance, is showing intense interest, right? So if there's 5 licenses per year, but 20 people sending applications that are really good, we can only give the 5, but it's not rejecting them, it's just that we didn't have enough in that
Right.
moment.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was clear for me as well. All right. Councilor Weber, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I guess for the panel, when we have these new licenses, are we making changes to the application process for the requirements to get one of these liquor licenses?
For example,
Well, so I've had people reach out to my office. One person of which is in the audience today, just about the steps you have to go through the hoops you have to jump through to get one of these licenses. So is the experience going to be different for someone who's trying to get one of these?
I think the experience will be different. The requirements are the same. We can't change the state requirements for a license, but we can help people's experience be a little bit more user-friendly. We also have a 10-step guide on our website, which I, again, recommend people take a look at that and to call us. But we can't say you don't need to have a community process. We can't say you don't need to submit a letter of intent.
Can we help people with that community process?
Well, that's currently run by the Office of Neighborhood Services.
Okay.
So yes, we can support them.
So somebody who wants to open a place, they're instructed to contact, their neighborhood liaison. But then, does your office provide any if somebody they need to flyer houses and
Yes, we have all those instructions on our website as well. And you can call and ask and we'll walk you through that.
Okay. And then but our stance is you need to be able to do that.
That's a legal requirement.
But can the city help in that process, distribute notice, or is there anything in the process where we can aid the applicant to allow them? I mean, honestly, I don't necessarily need my local bar owner to be able to flyer houses. I don't see how that's a necessary skill. But I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I take that question, Councilor Weber. I'm very happy to go back to ONS to ask that question, if we have in the past or if we have the ability to support that.
Okay. I don't know, Mr. Korn, if you had any thoughts.
I defer to the city, but I love that idea. I think if there's a street closure or a parade or something, the city is used to potentially issuing notice. So I'm not the decision maker, but I love your line of questioning.
Okay, and then I guess, Mr. Korn, you were talking about how the way these licenses are going to be awarded is sort of, I can't remember your phrase, but it's equal per each neighborhood. It's not based on equity necessarily. Maybe I'm mangling that. Do you think that we're going down the wrong path here? Or?
No, I think that anything, policy is all about compromise, and I think that the bill as passed now and signed into law still has the spirit of the first home rule petition that came up. So I think it's going to make a huge impact on the city. I think the process has changed the shape of it. And I think my point was that the bill as written now is equality versus equity. And we have the opportunity to make sure that during implementation, we center equity instead of equality.
Okay, and then I guess for the administration, are there any suggestions that Mr. Korn mentioned, like a dashboard that we're looking into now?
Yeah, I mean, well, first I asked them to forward it to us because it was a great presentation. It was a little small from here, but certainly was listening and following along. And I was taking notes here. I mean, one that we really are interested in, or at least me myself, I won't speak for my team, is the door knocking concept, or at least going out to folks. Right now, so since I started in January 22, in February we started these small business walks that many of you have joined in the past, and we'll be starting those up again in the fall. And so those, thinking about how we factor in those into the business walk, so kind of identifying where is the largest amount of CV licenses that don't have liquor licenses, and seeing if we can kind of create a route that way by delivering not just, hey, there's liquor licenses, but also all the other resources the city provides. So that's a really interesting.
I think they're starting this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is there, and maybe you discussed this, but is there a connection between the space grants and this process, or are you looking into that?
Yes. I mean, I will say that when folks applied for the space grant, one of the things that they indicated was that in addition to seeking a grant, they were also going to be, looking at applying for a liquor license. Some of the awardees have expressed an interest and a need for a liquor license if they're in the restaurant industry. So certainly, we're focused on making sure space awardees, but also legacy business awardees, as well as other grantees in the past, are very, very, kind of at the forefront of our minds in terms of delivering the information and making sure that they know this opportunity exists, as we're trying to make sure that everyone in the city knows of the opportunity.
Okay, and so I think on the unrestricted licenses, they can go to, among other things, movie theaters, and I think a lot of neighborhoods, outlying neighborhoods in Boston, would benefit from a movie theater. Are there any plans to find or any outreach to people who could bring that into somewhere outside of South Bay or
well, you're speaking my language, Councilor, because I would love, and Ruthie knows this already, I would love a movie theater back in Mattapan. There used to be a theater in Mattapan, and there's not anymore. And since I'm over in Hyde Park, I'd prefer not to have to go spend my money in Dedham, as much as I appreciate, that theater there. But I will say, though, to answer more directly, I mean, we've not engaged, the theater industry in terms of would they be interested in coming to the city. I think, though, this comes down to identifying the spaces, as I mentioned before. So I will say we are interested in all the above, whether it's theaters or other things that the council thinks of. But I think it's mostly about identifying where would these things go, and then starting the process for bringing it about.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Council Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the panel for being here today. The website again for everybody, just what is the way, when we get asked, where
Sure,
am I
it's
sending them?
boston.gov
Yep.
/licensing.
And that's where they'd go to apply. So when we get the calls in our office, send them to that website.
Yes, and there'll be a 10-step guide that will walk you through the initial 10 steps to apply.
And if I wanted to follow up on said application for anybody or any constituent in the district, I would follow up with Emily or licensing or?
I would call our office. I don't know the office number off the top of my head, but I would
Yeah.
call the
No,
office.
it's all right.
Someone will answer and they'll guide you. And then we'll assist you getting in touch with ONS.
Great. So it's 5 apiece, so I could, I'm trying to think in the district that I represent that covers from, Dorchester in the south end, but different zip codes.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how many are in District 3 total that might be coming in? Brian, you might have a better idea too. I should, but
All I can speak to is that zip codes and districts don't perfectly align. So,
Right. Well, that's
yeah.
what I'm just trying to figure, right, how much, the ultimate, because we're going to get a lot, we've already gotten some asks, and so all of a sudden you start writing down who's asking, and then, I just want to know when we're at, like, okay, we're now going over the amount allowed, at least for the folks that I'm representing.
But I would still encourage them to apply.
Sure.
Because if they're not granted one in this round, we still have two more rounds to
Yep.
issue.
And important to note that, again, there's 198 neighborhood restricted, but then there are 27 that can go anywhere in the city. So
Right.
even if parts of your district don't fall in, there's still an opportunity.
Sure. And to Mr. Corn, your outreach marketing, architecture help, all the things that were in your presentation there, did you put a cost to any of that, of what it might cost? Those are not things that are set in stone at this point. You're saying it would be ideal to have those services. Have you put a cost to any of those things, if it becomes on the city's dime, about what that would cost us?
I haven't gone through that process. This is the first conversation that we're having.
Okay.
And I think that, again, we keep talking about how many folks beyond the council, beyond the administration even, who want to make sure this is successful. So I think there's a broad coalition of people, some of whom have funding sources. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to pursue that conversation if that's helpful. I also think the city has the ability to do some of those things at little to no cost already.
Well, I think, we found success, though, with, community organizations and others kind of adopting these and moving these forward. I mean, I was interested, to answer Councilor Weber's question, one of the other things I was interested in was the boot camp, but not so much for the city doing it, but thinking about, does the MRA take something like that on, or BECMO or Amplify or other organizations that are, on the ground every day that, cater to particular communities, if it made more sense there with the city participating in some way. But I think there's ways here that it's not just the city kind of becoming bloated and doing all these things, which sometimes is why things don't operate well, but rather thinking of how do we become better partners in helping organizations do this work.
If I can just build off that for 1 second. So my business offsite is focused on education and professional development, specifically for people who work in and run restaurants. That's what we've been doing for the last 11 years. That's why I'm involved in this conversation. And our business model is based on the fact that we don't charge the end user, because people who work in and run restaurants don't have a lot of extra liquid capital. So in terms of creative solutions, in terms of service providing for educational opportunities, that's something that is our wheelhouse, and is certainly something I would love to be a part of planning.
Great. No, I was just thinking about, and I think Chairwoman Joyce mentioned this when she said, folks don't when thinking about the prerequisites or requirements for one to obtain a license, you have to have a location. But it can be a first-time location. That's sort of the impetus of all of this, right? Of being the first time out. I wonder about, Nick, the services being provided, and to what degree, especially for a first-timer, right? If you gave me the keys to a Lamborghini, I don't know how to drive that, right? And I'm helping you the whole way, great, but at some point you got to go. Right, and then I'm on my own, and I just let him do all the work to get to this point. And then will this new restaurant bar succeed or fail now when I'm on my own? I've tried to soak up as much as I can. So I'm wondering if there's any prerequisite to that stuff of, have you run one before, or have you worked in one? Or
so I think
like
the educators 100% should be focused in that, and that's something I can speak to. I've made tons of mistakes over the years that have been very costly, and I'm open to sharing that with people coming up, because I don't want them to make the same mistake, because that happened for me too. And I think there's countless operators around the city, and again, we've run boot camps like this many times in the past.
Yep.
And we bring in operators who are willing to share their expertise to bring up the next generation. So I do think that's an important element of centering the operator, and making sure that we're speaking from a position of expertise from people who have been in this situation before.
No, thank you. And it's all about the long-term success, right? And hopefully the first time.
And I don't want to take up all the 6 minutes. I wanted to pass, though, to Emily, who works on our small business team, just share a little bit about what they're doing on that long-term success.
Absolutely.
Hey, Counselor.
Hi,
Good to see
Emily.
you. So to your point about the investments we're making, so actually this summer, as you know, the new fiscal year started July 1. We put out new contracts for technical assistance providers, and one was written specifically for architects to help with new liquor license establishments. So that is a contract, and it was a WQC, so it's up to $250,000 for a veteran, minority, or woman-owned business. It actually went to a veteran-owned business, and their capability is for up to $250,000 to provide architectural renderings for either new businesses that are white boxes or a step below that, or established restaurants that don't have a liquor license that would like to add a bar. So that's one thing. I also really loved your Lamborghini analogy, and I think that's a lot about what our office does is, I wanted to jump in and be like, we can help with your business plan. We can help. I told Kathleen, we have lawyers who can help negotiate the lease. So if they have an LOI, this was a big part about what we did with Space, was provide a attorney to help negotiate the best lease they can on your behalf, because a lot of folks don't know what they don't know. They don't know what triple net is if they've never signed a triple net lease. And so being able to educate them and advocate for them in settings that are unfamiliar is a big piece about what our office does. And at some point, you have to let the bird leave the nest and hope that they can fly.
Right.
But everything that we can do to help get them from the ground all the way up to Kathleen's nest high on a pole, I think it is good.
No, I love all the support you guys have and services being provided to ensure the success on the first go-round, rather than have to see somebody sort of, and it may ultimately happen, right? We don't know. There certainly will probably be some that don't always survive the whole thing, but you guys are providing the right support. So thank you very much for your thoughtfulness on this process, and I look forward to many more new restaurants in Dorchester specifically, but of course across the city. Thank you.
You and me both, Council Fitzgerald.
That's right.
You and me both. I love the idea of the technical assistance for the architect, because a lot of existing businesses will probably be applying for this liquor license. And any way we can get the word out, like if there's information or infographic that you guys could, your office could send to the counselors, so we could just make sure that information is being widely shared. I would love to help in that informational campaign and that awareness around that assistance, because it's something that I've been advocating for. So I'm happy that it's something that's happening, but I just want to make sure that businesses are also aware that this assistance is available to them.
Totally, yeah.
Awesome.
And like I said, Counselor, it would be great if all of you hosted conversations in your district so that we can share this information out as well. But we'll take that note and send kind of a packet of things to the council to share out with your constituents.
Yeah, that would be great. And I guess this question is for Chris and maybe Nick as well. You come to the mic, Chris.
He's gonna come back.
And I'm assuming that you guys have been in a lot of these takeout places that will possibly be converting into sit-down restaurants or having a bar. What I guess I want to say pitfalls, but what should these restaurants be expecting in terms of converting their takeout restaurants into a sit-down restaurant or having a bar? Are there different requirements? Does a sit-down restaurant need to have a public restroom, right? Or does it need to have, two different egresses? I just want to hear some of the common things that you can envision these takeout restaurants.
So a lot of that depends on the capacity. So if you are going in excess of 49 people, you need an additional permit, a place of assembly permit from the fire department.
Yeah.
So it all depends on capacity.
Yep.
So the plumbing code dictates how many bathrooms you need to have based on the number of patrons that are coming into your establishment, including staff. So it would depend on, I think it's triggers at 30, 60, and 120 and above, the number of bathroom fixtures that you need to have. If you have in excess of 49 people, you need an additional place of assembly permit from the fire department. So any changes to the capacity, you would need a building permit from ISD. We review that for building code compliance, which includes sort of that plumbing aspect of it and the fire code.
Got it. And I guess, Chief Edo, this is for you. Are we, making sure that, our restaurateurs, our existing businesses are aware of the ISD bar that they would have to meet in order to convert their restaurant?
So part of the upcoming webinar conversations as well as in-person dialogues will include a representative from ISD to help share out information from their team.
Perfect. And great work by Alicia, Kareen, the whole small business team. Emily is also very responsive. She helped this small business in my district with a lifeline. So great work. Emily is a gem. The other question I have is, I love the door knocking campaign that you brought up, Nick, and please count me in on those walks, Chief Idowu. Can you talk to me about when you're meeting with distributors? What are some of the values, I guess, guidelines? Like, what do you expect to like kind of push them to do when it comes to like dealing with our local small businesses?
Well, part of, I don't know if you want to agree what to, part of, even this conversation is kind of gathering from yourselves, from community that's here, what we should be conveying to them. To be honest with you, my number one goal for me personally was just to say, we want these small business owners to be successful. Talk to us about how you're going to help make sure that we're leading them on the right path and getting them what they need, just helping them navigate the process, but also sharing information with us that we should be helping folks understand in the way that Kathleen has and the way that ISD is when we're having some of these larger conversations. But we take whatever other thoughts that folks have or concerns that we should be conveying to them when we bring them together.
Got it. And Kathleen, at the virtual informational session yesterday, I love the way how you described, a public good at that informational session. Can you just kind of like describe or give that definition to the public?
Sure. So one of the, when we take a look at an application, the standard of review is what is the public need for this type of restaurant concept or application in a particular area. And the criteria for public need is spelled out by case law, but it's also a part of our analysis on a regular basis. And thank you, Chief. Yeah. Those factors include what are the number of pre-existing licenses in a particular area. So some people will say, how can this block sustain yet another restaurant that serves alcohol? So that's a question we would ask on the record. Do you think that your neighborhood or this area or the place where you would want to open can sustain another licensed premise? And sometimes the answer is yes, because my concept is different. I want to bring a new Asian fusion restaurant into Dorchester in Adams Corner, and you don't have one. And we're going to serve alcohol, and it's going to be sit down, and it's going to be an experience like nothing this area has ever seen before. And so that would also go towards this being a unique concept for that area. And then we also take a look at traffic and noise factors. Now we're seeing a lot of places that are teamed up with DoorDash and Uber Eats, so we ask those questions. How much of your business model is going to be takeout and delivery? How much of your business model do you plan to have as sit down? And then public support and opposition is another thing we look at. Public support is not the same as public need. Just because you have 55 people lined up to say we want this restaurant there, we have to dig a little deeper and talk about what is the need of this restaurant here. I truly believe that clusters of restaurants are good for business. When you go to one restaurant and there's a 45-minute wait, you might go next door and have a drink at the companion restaurant on the other side of the street. And then we take a look at the reputation, character, and fitness of the applicant. Is the applicant somebody that is involved in the community? Is it somebody who wants to be involved in the community? Do they have a good business model? Have they run businesses successfully before? If they are a previously approved manager by our board, we take a look at their record in front of our board to see if we believe that they should be running another restaurant in the city. So we have a lot of ways to analyze an application, but those are some of the big factors we look at, and that helps tease out how we think this proposal will do in a particular neighborhood. We want to set everybody up for success. We want to make sure that we get all that stuff out on the record so the public knows exactly what's going to be happening, and that if we think that they need to go a little further, we work with them. It's not a yes or no question. You don't check off a box about public need. We talk about those things on the record, help them think about their business plan, and help them figure out exactly what they need to meet those requirements of public need.
Awesome, thank you. And to that point, are people who are applying, are they able to go and take a look at past applicants who have I guess spoken to public? Okay, that's available to them?
Every single one of our hearings is on YouTube and
Perfect.
Linked on our website. So you could actually, call us and say, this great application I know got approved by your board in this neighborhood. Can you point me in the right direction and we'll help you? So I just want to point out one more thing. Thank you, Chief. We are going to be taking a look at additional considerations this time around, not just the factors of public need that have been standard. We're also going to be taking a look at whether or not this application is going to enable and enhance the cultural and economic activity of a neighborhood. We're going to go beyond just the basic, like, is there another Asian fusion restaurant? Is this going to create new business and economic opportunity across our diverse communities? And very important in this tranche of licenses is, will it support wealth generation for less resourced entrepreneurs? And will it promote emerging and diverse businesses and communities to advance the city's commercial offerings? So we are going to go a little deeper and ask those questions and help the applicants get those answers before us.
Yeah. So the finer point is equity and not equality is our main goal here.
And I do want to, I think the other part that I do want to touch on is that, you know, through our research and our study, you know, why we targeted these zip codes was because of the disparities in liquor licenses. And even with 225, right, one of the largest liquor licenses bills to pass, it's still not enough, right, compared to other neighborhoods and zip codes here in the city of Boston. So even though we're throwing, you know, this historic bill at it, you know, it's still not, you know, living up to, you know, the disparity that we're still facing. So
the opportunity, though, is to show the need, right?
Right.
And so that was one of the big arguments that were conversations at the State House was, you know, how much does Boston really need given how many exist? And I think the opportunity here with all of your support and those in the room and watching is to show that there is a huge demand, particularly in these zip codes, for more licenses. And so we're looking forward to, in a couple of years, you're all leading the charge again to bring more licenses to the city.
coming on back for 200 and for 1,000 more, I
2,000,
guess.
that's right.
And I do have one more question, then I'm going to go to public testimony, then back to my council colleagues for a second round of questions. And I forgot what TV show it is, right, when it comes to TA. There's a TV show where the celebrity chef sticks around with the restaurant, you know, the restaurateur for a period of time, and they watch this restaurant turn around. I forgot the name of the restaurant. But I guess my question is that the level of service, right, that the TA assistants will provide to the restaurateur? Like, what level of service should we be anticipating? Is it going to be on-site? Is it something that they're coming into the office and just getting training on? What type of service do you see the TA providing?
Well, it's we have different types of technical assistance. But let me just say, because I was even going to say this for Councilor Fitzgerald, you know, everything that we've been doing in OEOI is to make sure that if we're helping you start your business, that you then become eligible for the Legacy Business Program 10 years from now. Like, it does not help the city to help you once and then you fail, and then, you know, because those are jobs, those are, that's lack of wealth in our community, et cetera. So it's within our best interest to help you be as successful as possible. So that being said, for the TA, it depends. A couple of the types that we provide might require you to be part of a group to get information, but that's because they require cohorts. Others are you're working directly with the person. So Emily mentioned for the legal support, for instance, they come to you. You know, they'll sit down with you, walk you through whatever process, understand everything. You know, they'll yell at the landlord and fight for you and all that kind of stuff, right? So it honestly depends on the type of TA being provided, but at the end of the day, it is available at any life stage of the business, because our goal, like I said, is to not just be there when you start, but all of us want to be able to celebrate them at the next Legacy Business Award program.
I appreciate hearing that. Now we'll go to public testimony. When you hear your name being called, please come down to one of the two podiums and state your name, neighborhood, and/or organization affiliation. And please speak into the microphone. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. We would love for the administration to stay to hear from the public on their testimony. Melissa, the floor is now yours, and you have 2 minutes. And then followed by Kaisha.
Hi, Wow. Okay. I'm Melissa Stefanini. I haven't talked to anyone who isn't my staff in a very long time. So thank you for having me. I'm a little nervous. I'm going to read from my phone. I will say that most of what I'm going to say right now has absolutely already been covered in this room, but I think it's important for you to hear my personal story. I've been operating a wholesale and retail empanadas and more company since 2017. I opened in 2018 in Somerville in Union Square. And in 2022, I was able to open my first bar, which is absolutely so cool, and I can't believe it still. The reason I was able to do that was because of the shared license at the Charles River Speedway, which is where Super Bien is located. That's the name of my business. I don't think I said that. So Super Bien is a celebration of my upbringing, which I call lovingly a cultural limbo. We sell the empanadas and a wider menu of dishes based on the products that I wholesale. And we feature all natural, all South American wine as a way to focus a little bit more attention on the unsung wine-producing regions of the world. South America's super underrated, so that's why I do what I do. And instead of going full-on CPG and grocery retail, like most of my restaurant friends have done lately, I think that's sort of the thing. I've been kind of stubborn in the fact that I still want to keep creating these spaces for people to go congregate, come together, hang out, just really come to know one another. I think that's super important for us to do as people. And so when I first heard about the licenses, the new licenses, which I only know because I went drinking with Nick Horn, I had a couple of picklebacks, and he told me that my story actually lines up exactly to what we're going to be talking about today, which is that what I am sort of desperate to do is open in my own neighborhood. I live in East Boston. I own property there. My businesses are located in Union Square and Brighton. So while I love being spread in so many directions, I would love to focus my efforts at home and do something that I know my neighbors want. And so I did hear a little bit about the process. Not gonna lie, this was my first time also hearing a little bit about it. But yeah, so I'm one of those people who would look at the year 2 or year 3 applications for it, looking for, there's so many more things that come into play besides the license, like finding the space, which for me is going to be a diamond in the rough because I need to support kind of big wholesale operation and then also what I'm doing in retail. So I guess my hope for today is asking that the process be ultra transparent and simple for someone like me who, I don't even have time to apply for so many grants that I probably could have been awarded and would have honestly really helped me through the pandemic. But, there's so much to do every day. And I'm someone who's always on their phone, so I don't actually know how I didn't hear about this. But so thank you so much, first of all. And it's really cool that that the licenses are being structured in that yearly plan so that more of us have a chance. We don't have that much funding or that much time. I think that's really, really cool. And I'm really happy to be someone who's trying to add to the fabric of the city in this way. So thank you.
Thank you. Kaisha, followed by Louis.
I mean, whatever. So just say, because it was a good point that Melissa brought up in terms of the Speedway. So one of the other things that we're looking at and why I want to talk with property owners is trying to find opportunities where if there's a large space in the city, can we have multiple vendors in a space under one license, right? So anyway, just to say, that's another thing we're looking at.
Nice. Councilman Mejia?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said earlier, right? I don't know if everybody, I need a translator in this chamber, but I think I did, that was what I was alluding to in terms of innovation, right? Like, this should not feel like the Hunger Games. We should create as many opportunities to make it easier for everyone to share the prosperity. So I definitely think that that's something worth looking into and figuring out how we can make that happen.
Absolutely. And if anyone wants to open up a food hall in Dorchester or Mattapan, let's work on it. Kaisha, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon to the chair, to the council, and the panel for having me here today. My name is Kaisha Davenport. I am the general manager and former beverage director at Comfort Kitchen. We're at 611 Columbia Road in Dorchester. I'm also the sole proprietor of a business called Bar Noir Boston, which focuses on hospitality, education, and advocacy, specifically for Black hospitality professionals. Comfort Kitchen is a BIPOC-owned, women-owned, immigrant-owned space in Upham's Corner. We focus on global comfort food and beverage that centers the spice trade between West Africa and South Asia. We're very fortunate to be awarded a non-transferable Section 12 pourable liquor license. If I remember correctly, in the hearing, we were told that we were awarded the last license in inventory at the time. This was August of 2022. I don't know how true that was, but I'm glad we got it. I've worked in hospitality since 2009. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, moved into Boston in 2016, and I've been very fortunate to work as a server, a bartender, a manager, as well as a shop steward, a labor organizer, and a restaurant owner here in Massachusetts. 225 new liquor licenses in the city is very exciting to me. It sounds like the dream of hospitality that I've been working toward here for the last 8 years. I look forward to seeing restaurants develop a community here in Boston that is truly inclusive, that speaks to the diversity of our city and allows us to reimagine Boston as a hospitality destination. Throughout my career in hospitality, there is a common theme that I do tend to notice as someone who's worked on the side of labor organizing and political activism, as well as just a straight up worker in restaurants. There's often a very significant disconnect between the kinds of conversations that happen in halls like these and happen actually in restaurants. My office hours are late. You get an email from me at 10:38. And I hope that you hope to hear from me within the next 72 hours. Restaurant workers and proprietors strike this balance of being business savvy, staff development, as well as just sheer labor. If you have to do the dishes, you will go downstairs and do the dishes. And so we often are not accessible during standard city hours. If you have a hearing at 3:30, that's family meal for my team, and we're not inherently able to always guarantee that we're able to circle back and rewatch those meetings in real time. I'd like to focus my thoughts and intentions, although implementation and the application process is of course significantly important. I want to focus the rest of my time here on noting that once you as a bartender, cocktails are the last thing that you're going to make, is what I always tell folks that I'm training. Having a liquor license is one thing, the effective execution of a liquor license is another, and I look forward to seeing throughout this implementation process time and education dedicated towards what it actually means to physically design a bar, what it actually means to train folks, to hire and recruit folks to learn how to serve alcohol responsibly and safely, and of course, above all, creating quality offerings that are of a high standard. Again, I heard the word golden ticket earlier, and I kind of tweaked because you just don't know how much work goes into this, whether it's free or not. And I've spent so many hours of time that I wish I could have dedicated to more administrative work, really just being in on the ground, just doing hard labor. And I hope that is acknowledged throughout this process. I want to see more of our representation visiting restaurants and asking real questions and offering real help in terms of how restaurants can thrive in the city and how we can access resources. I've been passed quite a few cards in my day, and following through is often something that doesn't inherently happen. I'm very fortunate to be a part of a team where our leadership is very much embedded in the community and had the wherewithal and the experience to have the connections to be a successful community business. But especially for Black-owned businesses, brown-owned businesses, smaller businesses in general, I know for a fact that this is not the same access that the folks coming up under us are inherently going to be receiving, and I really implore the chair and the council and everyone here today to be very mindful of that over the next several years as we see the community literally change in hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis, followed by Victor.
Thank you. Can I have your water? Thanks. Okay. First off, congratulations on passing the bill and opening the door to more liquor licenses. It's a huge accomplishment, and it's greatly appreciated. This bill is a necessary step for sure, but it doesn't solve the larger problem. We wouldn't need free licenses if we had a better system. As wonderful as it is to have access to all these free licenses, they're being slacked out over a long period of time with a limited amount per neighborhood. So many operators will still need to purchase on the open market. In 2013, I opened a restaurant in Fort Point. It was called Tavern Road. And at the time, I paid $300,000 for a liquor license. And since then, the seller's market for licenses has more than doubled in 10 years. If I wanted to open that same location today, I wouldn't be able to. It would be completely cost prohibitive. I don't believe anyone who understands anything about this business would invest in a project with under 100 seats, knowing that the license alone would cost over $600,000. It's a bad investment. Once you include the cost for construction, lawyers, and plenty of other pre-opening expenses, you'd be in a debt situation with no way out. You're never paying back those investors. I'm going through this right now. For several years, I've had to walk away from spaces because the license is cost prohibitive. Restaurants are the pulse of successfully built communities. Every neighborhood that's popping up from the Seaport to Boston Landing all rely on restaurants as part of their infrastructure for other types of businesses and residents. Just take a walk around these developments and you'll see signs on every building that says restaurant space available. There are no plans for development in any city anywhere that doesn't include restaurants. You want us to open. You want us to build places where you can gather with your neighbors, friends, family, celebrate life. But you can't possibly understand the economics of what is required in order to give you that place. If you did, you'd know that we can't keep taking the bait here. How do we all reasonably expect an operator to run a 50, 60, 70, or 80 seat restaurant if the liquor license alone is going to cost over $600K? I personally will not be making a living. My investors will never see a return. Restaurants are businesses. They're not just amenities to neighborhoods. They have to be profitable in order for them to be amenities for your neighborhood in the first place. Everyone working there needs to make a living off that business. The owners need to make a living also. The investors need to be paid back just like any other business. We don't just ask restaurants to be the first ones through the door, ahead of residential, ahead of office space, ahead of schools, etc. When's the last time you attended a fundraiser and didn't see a row of your favorite restaurants there handing out bites? Personally, I've always answered the call when Love and Spoonfuls or No Kid Hungry or Housing Families has reached out and asked if I will donate my time, my labor, and my food to their cause. I'm happy to do it, but we're also counted on it to do it. We give back constantly in many different ways, and when tragedy struck at the finish line of the Boston Marathon, the restaurant industry, in this case led by Ken Oringer and Ming Tsai, formed Boston Bites Back. We all rallied, we took over Fenway Park, we raised the real money that night, but that's what we do. That's what we've always done, and that's what we want to continue doing. But if I'm in debt with no clear path out, I can't give back to the charities I love to support. I can't pay back my investors, and as scary as it is right now to be doing what I'm doing, this isn't the worst of it. My license cost me $300,000 10 years ago, and now the cost of that license doubled. But how long do you think it'll be before we see the first $1 million license in this city? If we keep moving in the direction we're heading in, it's inevitable. We're making it impossible for small to mid-sized restaurants to operate. They'll be phased out. And when you consider what that means for our neighborhoods and our city, it's a very sad reality. The only obvious solution I can come up with is a buyback initiative. And I know this has been discussed in the past. It's not an original idea. I understand it's complicated. I know if anyone is holding a liquor license, they'll expect full market value for their license, but I don't see any other way to truly level the playing field. I'm grateful for the recent bill that finally passed, releasing more licenses for no cost in some neighborhoods. And it's very helpful and will do a lot of good, but it's a Band-Aid, and we're talking about needing open heart surgery here. There are other cities, New York, for example, where the city controls the license and the operators pay a fee to use them. It works. No doubt it's difficult, and I live in the city, so I also realize, like, in this building, there are way more important issues on the table. But this conversation requires a real discussion, real long-term solutions. Do it now before a buyback becomes even more cost prohibitive. Wouldn't you rather start establishing a buyback system now before we see that $1 million license? You just said a few minutes ago, we're gonna need more, and you just said a few minutes ago, it might be 1,000 in a few years. We'll just keep chasing the same thing over and over again. It's the system that's broken. And that's all I want to come here and say. I know it's off topic a little bit, but it was an opportunity. I want to take it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here's your water.
Victor, followed by Maya.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Victor Baranya. My neighborhood is the North End. My affiliation is the North End Waterfront Residents Association. My position is chair of the Zoning Licensing and Construction Committee of the North End Waterfront Residents Association. And I was unable to attend the webinar last night. I came here to learn, and I have learned. But I have another question. But before the question, I have an answer. I have an answer for Councilor Weber. Yes, the Office of Neighborhood Services will assist applicants when newer North End Waterfront Residents Association receives an application. As the start of the community process, I refer them to ONS and the neighborhood liaison for names. You were focusing on flyering on the names and addresses where notice should be sent. So by all means, they are extremely helpful, and I'm glad to be able to answer your question. The question I have, the general question, part of it has been answered, which is the question of public need and what constitutes public need. And I've heard that there are additional factors that you weigh in or add into the generic public need. But what hasn't been focused on today, except perhaps with the last person who spoke, is the 12 unrestricted all alcohol licenses worth perhaps 500,000, perhaps 600,000. The person or persons who receive those receive tremendous gifts. And I'm concerned about, I'm thinking about, yes, you get that gift, but you don't get that gift. And I wonder whether the council would want to think about adding some sort of guardrails to make sure that these extremely valuable licenses don't go in the wrong direction. And I'm not here to say what the wrong direction is, but I think that may be an analysis that ought to be made. We in the North End have already received half a dozen applications for those 12 extremely valuable licenses. One of them was filed not only before the governor approved the legislation, but before the legislation was approved by the legislature. And it was approved conditioned upon the passage of the legislation, if I have it correctly. But I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean that that person who was first in line gets an automatic license? I don't think so from what I've heard today, but what does it mean to be approved? What happens next? What determines whether you get $600,000 and I don't? Those are my concerns, and I hope I have put into your heads some concern also that this extremely valuable asset and the distribution of it needs to be thought about deeply. Thank you.
Thank you. Maya?
Hello. My name is Maya Mukhopadhyay. and I am the owner of a soon-to-be coffee shop and wine bar in Jamaica Plain. We are a space grant recipient, and that has been instrumental to bringing our vision to life. Our build-out started in July, and we're on track to open the coffee shop in November. For the wine bar, we don't exactly know when the opening date for that will be, as it is dependent on when we secure a liquor license. I recognize the hard work and the advocacy that has gone into adding these new licenses to the City of Boston, as well as the support that has been given to small business owners like myself to navigate the process. And yet, there is an information gap. And, everything that you said today, Chairwoman Joyce, about the process, I know that now. I did not know that 2 years ago, and it has been a 2-year process for me to kind of digest the information that you just said. So that's partly what I'm here to impress upon this group today. I had the idea to open a coffee shop and wine bar in JP back in 2022. And when I started telling folks about this idea, the first thing that everybody said was, good luck getting a liquor license. And I didn't know anything about this process, and I asked myself the natural questions of, why are these so hard to obtain in Boston, and what's driving the scarcity? So I naively, perhaps, set out on a journey to try to answer these questions for myself. Over the last 2 years, in parallel to developing my concept, finding a space, securing funding, and doing everything else that, opening a restaurant requires, I have also talked to city councilors, advocacy groups, lawyers, reporters, City of Boston employees, Main Streets directors, other restaurant owners, in an attempt to try to demystify the liquor license process. But at times it felt like I was going backwards. The more people I spoke to, the more contradictory answers I got. Some said there were no licenses available. Some said there was a secret stash. Some suggested reapplying frequently to stay on top of the list, while others advised a different approach. Some said when a license is made available, it'll be awarded to the first in line. Others said, we don't really know how that decision is made. Shrug. And so I realized through that experience that in the absence of a centralized place where you can access this information clearly and accessibly, rumors and urban legends flourish, making a daunting process all that more difficult. Another part of the process that I found challenging was the application itself, specifically the community process that Councilman Weber referred to. Over the course of a month, I applied in June. I attended the abutters meeting, great. I also attended 4 neighborhood association meetings, which brings my total number of meetings in a month to make my bid for a liquor license application clear in JP to 5. I also had to flyer the same houses in a 10-block radius 3 separate times for 3 different meetings. And when I gently asked if there was a way to streamline this process, I was met with a very definitive no. And as I stuck flyers on doors for hours on end in high heat and during monsoon-like rains, I thought to myself, who has the time to do this? And who has the ability to do this? I've never been more thankful to be able-bodied and to be able to walk around on my 2 feet for hours on end, but I really thought this is not an accessible process. My hope is that this process is streamlined for future applicants. Additionally, the ABCC form and required documentation, while not overly complex, seem to require very specific language that applicants like myself wouldn't be familiar with. I decided to hire a lawyer to ensure that I didn't make any mistakes, but I realized that not everyone has that option. And it's worth noting that I wasn't hiring a lawyer for their legal acumen, but rather their prior experience going through this process. A simple question like, provide a description of your premise, I learned, has a right and a wrong answer. Simply put, this should be an application where we can fill it out successfully without having to retain legal help. So fast forward to now, I had my hearing in July and was approved pending availability. I believe now that the city has sent my application to the ABCC for review. Fingers crossed, I am eagerly awaiting good news there. As I wrap up, I'll leave you with this. 2 years ago, I decided to open a coffee shop and wine bar in JP. My dream was to cultivate a gathering spot where neighbors could convene over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and be in community with one another. My dream was not to become a de facto expert on liquor licensing in the city of Boston. And yet, in order to achieve my dream, I felt I had to devote a lot of time, energy, and resources towards understanding what still feels like a pretty opaque process. My hope for future applicants is that they're able to navigate this process without making it a second full-time job. I share my experience today in the hope that it might highlight some of the areas where the process, in my opinion, could become clearer and more accessible for restaurant owners, and I truly welcome feedback, questions, follow-up on my experience if that helps design the process moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to thank the public for coming out to testify. Okay, I don't have anyone else sign up for testimony. Can you check, Ron? But yeah, wanted to just thank the public for coming out to testify. I know my council colleagues have second rounds of questions, so I'm gonna just start off with a few questions of my own before I go to my council colleagues. And one thing that got brought up, that I was thinking of when I heard testimony from the public was the public need portion. Knowing that restaurateurs or entrepreneurs are going through this community process, what is being communicated to our civic groups, right, for them to understand our goals as a city to make sure that when entrepreneurs or restaurateurs are taking time out of their busy day to come and present to them that the city does have a goal or a vision for these business districts and for these liquor licenses.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other sets of meetings that we do want to have is with civic organizations, but we're going to need to loop your offices into this conversation, because what we don't want to do is only just deliver the information. To your point, we want to also convey what our values are and what our goals are. So those have not been scheduled yet, because there's so many of them in just one district alone, or even on one street sometimes. So we'll look for guidance from you all on how we set those meetings up, but we have started that initial conversation with ONS about engaging civic groups to share the FAQs and to convey what we're trying to achieve here.
Right, yeah, because thank you for that, because I think that would be extremely helpful to the process and to our entrepreneurs and restaurateurs that are going out on this process. And speaking of the process, is there, and maybe this just needs further conversation for you to go take a look back, but I know there's some things that the ABCC requires, but is there anything that you could think of just like off the top of your head that we can help streamline some of the processes, or I guess, and I think you spoke to this a little bit, but offering aid, or say maybe a restaurateur doesn't need to do a half a mile block, maybe it's a quarter mile, maybe it's just a business district, right? What are some of the things that come to your head?
Well, I don't know on the on what I think it's a state law that requires what.
Oh, that's a state law?
In terms of like
the radius
of where they have to go. But at the end of the day, I think whatever materials we put together, whatever social media we put out, whatever videos we create, they will never match what you put together. But whatever we put together will not be as good as talking directly to a member of the staff, because they can walk folks through the process. I mean, we could make it, it could be 3 questions, but again, don't want to assume that means that therefore everyone now knows what's going on. So we really do encourage folks to reach out to the licensing team to help them navigate the process.
And I've heard nothing but good things from applicants on the licensing board's team, and that you guys are very responsive and that you guys are very helpful to all applicants. So I just want to say thank you for that, and shout out to Danny over there on your team.
know what I did here. I just wanted to add, I do know the phone number for my office now, 635-4170. And I really do encourage everyone, the people here too, to call the office. Wendy Law and Maria Farrell in my office, in addition to Danny Green, will answer any question. If it gets to a question that they feel has legal ramifications, they'll let you know that they can't answer it. But something like the description of a premise, every day we get questions about, is this enough? What else should I write? So I wouldn't want someone, I would encourage everyone just to start to fill out the application. If they get stuck, come in the office, call us, email us. We get calls all the time from city councilors that said, I have an applicant, they said they never got a call back from you. And we immediately go and check our voicemails and our emails, and more often than not, we've never heard from them before. So we do track on Wednesdays and in office hours. I've asked my staff to actually track who comes in, who calls, who emails, and we're trying to gather data on that. But we're trying to demystify the process. Our door is always open. We're there 5 days a week. My staff checks their email all the time. So something about the description of a licensed premise is something that we can help you with. You don't need to hire an attorney for that.
Awesome. And that number again is 617-635-4170.
4170.
And then, can you give me the definition of approved pending availability?
Yes. So that means that in the eyes of the board, the three commissioners, we think that this application deserves a license. So we vote to approve it, pending the availability of a license for which they qualify. Licenses come and go all the time, strangely. They pop up when someone turns one in. I think I mentioned it before, Durgan Park. Their license was returned. We're going through our renewal process soon. Licenses may get returned to the city. So pending availability, these licenses don't become invisible. They don't suddenly become visible. It means something has come back to the board. We immediately go to that list of applications that have been approved pending availability, and we try to figure out what is a good match for the license that's available. 2006, 2014, the last two times we've received licenses, those licenses have strings attached. So we want to make sure the application, in some cases, is it in a Main Streets district? Do we have a Main Streets license available? If so, we will get that one out the door. Is it in an urban renewal district? Some of these licenses have to go to urban renewal areas. We get that out the door. The 2014 legislation had licenses allocated to neighborhoods. So if a Dorchester license comes back to us, it has to go back to Dorchester. Her license in JP wouldn't have qualified for one of those. But when we just recently received a license that she qualifies for, so we sent her application up to the ABCC. So they're now reviewing that.
So an application or an applicant that's approved pending availability, would they be first in line for one of these new licenses if one does become available?
We're not, so the December 6th deadline is to avoid having a line and a wait list.
Okay.
What we're doing is we're going to take a look at the entire group of licenses together and evaluate those licenses that have been approved pending availability and determine which of the licenses the legislature gave us best suits the applicant that came before us.
I go to my council colleagues for questions. Councilman Mejia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for affirming the fact that I was not crazy asking people to break things down. And I am feeling really grateful that I am here in this chamber serving as an interpreter. So I hope, and I do think, Joyce, it was really important for people to hear, because this is something that people can rewind and listen to at a later date as well. And I think that information is literally cash in many ways, right? There are people who have lots of it and there are people who are dying for it. And I think that that is how we're really going to close the information and wealth gap, is by providing as many opportunities to educate people, because I keep going back to the fact of place of privilege. And I think that we often lose sight of the fact that you guys are in the weeds. You know, you used to be the executive director of BECMA, like you understand the racial equity work from a different lens, like, and so we're all just trying to catch up to y'all. And so I think that the education that you provided us and the framework that you shared, Chief, was really important to help ground us. And so thank you for doing that. Now, there was a lot of steps to go through. I know they all sounded easy, but if I had to go through community processes where there's a lot of legwork that happens, and I'm just curious, between now and December the 6th, all the people who want to apply, will they be able to do all of these things that you mentioned earlier? Like get the letter of intent, portal uploads, the community meetings, like all of those things take time, and I'm just curious because there are folks who are well-versed that are probably already there, but from an equity perspective, like how are we creating space for other folks to catch up to that process? What's that framework?
Well, this is why, though, that there are 3 rounds, essentially. So there's this first, because what we also don't want to do is, we've got 225 licenses in total, but we wait until May of next year, and then there's an 8-9 month period where folks who are ready to take advantage of the opportunity and who would be really great and it would help us achieve our equity goals are waiting, up to a year to award some of these licenses. And so that's why we have, these spaced out to give people that time to catch up. I will say also, a lot of these things happen simultaneously. So, Kathleen's team will tell you that there are some folks who come having already done the community process and then going through the application process for moving forward, or who at the same time they're getting all this information just immediately go and start all this and get connected with ONS. So I believe that, we pushed this out to December in order to make sure that there was, a considerable amount of time for folks to at least try to get the community process done, get their stuff in for December 6th. But we'll be sharing the dates for the 2 other rounds to give folks time who may not be prepared for the December 6th deadline.
And I just wanted to add, ONS has hired a community specialist team whose only job is to set up these meetings. So they have staffed up to make sure that these community meetings happen in time.
Yeah, and I'd also just like to just recommend that as we continue to build infrastructure and build capacity, I think it would be great to even have like a licensed navigator of sorts, a concierge, right? Somebody who can like walk you through the process from beginning to end, and that is their job. Like somebody who has managed, and it doesn't have to be somebody who's super educated. It could be somebody simple that understands that they've been through it, and now they're gonna help educate someone else. So it doesn't have to be a lawyer, right? Because I think that also creates a financial hardship for folks. Right now they're spending money out of their budget that they're supposed to be using to build their business to now pay for a lawyer, and oftentimes it's $150 or $350 an hour to pay somebody to do this work, when we can make those investments, even if it's temporary or whatever the dynamic looks like. But I do think that to get us to the finish line, we have to start really thinking about the gaps that the city can fill to help support. And because we're going to be going into budget season, hello again, we can get ahead of that.
Well, but I will say, though,
I'm
Councilor,
not
that
done yet.
To the idea, though, of the navigator and all that, again, the entire licensing staff is on hand to provide exactly the support that you're mentioning. And it's actually better that it's spread out across the entire team versus one role, because, people take vacations or they're sick or they're out that day or whatever. And so the entire staff is employed with that knowledge. But as I shared on the opening remarks, we are also bringing on our neighborhood business managers, ONS liaisons, Main Streets directors to at least be resourced with some of the basic questions or answers to basic questions, so that they're kind of attacking this on the ground, and then for more difficult questions, filtering that to the licensing team to help them navigate. And then the legal support, to your point, it existed for the space program. Yes, it's to help on the tenant negotiations, but we now also have technical assistance available for legal support for these particular cases.
And because we don't want to,
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
No. Council Weber has ceded his time to you.
Okay, thank you. Because this is important, right? We got to get this right. This is, once in a lifetime opportunity here. So we have 198 that are restricted.
Yes.
How are you looking at your guidelines? It would just be important for us to, or at least for me to better understand your rating metrics, right? I know you're going to look at, zip codes. Is it meeting certain criteria around equity, I got that part, but I'm just curious in terms of the rating. With only 198, I guess what I'm trying to get at is I don't want this to feel like the Hunger Games, where everybody's trying to like compete for the little bit of what we have. Even though 225 sounds like a lot, the need is much greater than what we still have. So kind of help me understand the grading process.
Well, I don't know that there's a specific grading process, but I will say that, I don't know how we avoid, we definitely believe we're going to be oversubscribed for this program, which I think is a good thing because, as I said earlier, it's going to demonstrate to the legislature that there is a big need in Boston for a lot more of these licenses. One of the things, I'll say, and I'm glad we were able to stay here for the first round of public testimony, everyone in this room shares the same frustration, which I think is unique for some of these issues. And so, at the end of the day, the fact that we're celebrating that we secured licenses from the legislature means that no one in this room gets to say, here are more licenses for the city of Boston. We have to go ask someone else for these licenses. And so I think the way that we bolster a future argument until things change at the state level where Boston gets the power to do this ourselves, I think the fact that we will be oversubscribed will show that we definitely need more here. One of the things, though, again, I think the public need category is important for helping us determine. I think I think your point is, or that you're trying to make, is how are we going to best determine who is getting these licenses. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it goes back to the public need category. Is this a new or emerging entrepreneur? Is it filling? Is it a new concept for the neighborhood? Are they from underrepresented communities that don't already have licenses? All those things are going to be factors, plus others that Kathleen shared earlier.
So, because I'm not going to hold you guys hostage here any further. But I will just add one more last thing. I think that I'm a process person. I think that we would benefit from having a hearing at a later date to evaluate and see kind of how this first round has gone. It doesn't even have to be a hearing. It could just be a reflection document. I don't care, whatever it looks like. But I do think that when we know better, we do better. And I think that there's something that to be said about what we can learn after December the 6th, based on the quality of the pool of applicants that have come through, what your decision-making model looked like, what you hear from the general public, right? And then we can just pause, reflect, and retool if we need to for the next round. Because what I don't want to do is, do the same thing and expect different results. So I think that it would be a really good exercise for us to go through after December the 6th to regroup as a community that's invested in making sure that we get this right. It doesn't have to be a formal hearing like that. It could be like a little working session or something, just because I want to make sure that whatever we do for round 2 and 3, if we need to redesign, then we should be able to have the luxury and the ability to do just that, particularly with because we've been speaking English. This is America, and I understand that. But, even this hearing, it would be great for us to do something where we would have, translation happening in Spanish and Haitian Creole and other languages that are spoken, because the whole idea is to reach our equity goals. And I know there are a lot of folks who are tuning in and probably have someone translating on their behalf, but I just think that that is another practice that we need to consider for the next round.
Understood.
Thank you, Councilman Mejia. Council Weber, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from an Eggleston Square business owner. Look forward to that, you're testifying. But I just had one question. So on this approved pending availability, maybe you said this and I just missed it. How many businesses have been approved pending availability that are waiting in the pipeline?
I don't have all the data in front of me, but I would say about 3 now.
Okay.
We have about 3 active applications that are pending availability.
Okay, that answers my question.
It could be up to about 5 now.
Okay. Yeah, I was concerned it would be like 203.
No.
So,
We would love to have that problem so we could get more licenses, but no.
okay, thank you, Chair.
Got it. And just going back off that question is, so the pending availability, that designation does not expire, or does it?
So your application is active for 1 year. Yes.
Okay, so pending availability.
It's for 1 year.
For 1 year. Okay, got it. All right, thank Councilman Mejia. And then we're going to go into public testimony.
Yes. So that I'm clear, and this goes back to you don't know what you don't know. So if someone's license is not approved, but you can keep it active for 1 year, do you provide feedback to folks when their application is not approved so that they can get it right the next go round? Or do they have to keep that license in for a year and there's a loop hole or somewhere? Because I
pending
think that,
availability is an approval.
But if they're getting denied?
I have denied one private transfer only, to the best of my knowledge. We would not want the application to be before us at a public hearing unless we thought we could get to an approval process. For an alcohol license, I mean, we've denied some fast food licenses because the neighborhood didn't want a fast food establishment. That wouldn't be active for a year. They would be flat out denied.
Nick, you look like you wanted to say something. Please say it.
I think if I understand correctly what was explained before, basically there's people who apply who application's not accepted. That's very rare, as the chairperson just said. The folks who are granted pending availability, they're active for 1 year, and if ones become available, then they could get granted, which is what's happening with Maya's as an example. And then in this new category of December 6th licenses, and please correct me if I'm understanding incorrectly, they're not going to vote on them until they're all together on December 6th. And so they won't get the approved granted pending availability because they won't vote on them. They'll hold them all together, and they'll only approve the ones that are going to go forward. So there might be a chance where East Boston has 20 of them who are all going for 5, let's just say as an example. They'll use those criteria that were laid out in terms of public need to vote on the amount that they're going to issue. So it's not that the other ones are rejected.
Right.
I think likely those other ones, and please the chair correct me if I'm wrong, would get granted pending availability, assuming that they satisfied all the criteria. They just wouldn't be.
Because I know you're asking about feedback. I think one thing also, though, that distinguishes the process for getting a liquor license versus other things like grants or things like that is that there's a public hearing. And the commissioners are stating on the record, they're asking all these questions and then get them to their answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, one more question. So let's say, for instance, I'm a business and I already have a liquor license, but it's just for beer and wine. And I think I can upgrade my establishment. I have the audacity that I want to serve more potent things. Is that considered now a new applicant because they want to sell the hard stuff? And so it's a bigger...
So in Boston, we would consider that a new application. In other municipalities, they have the power to upgrade. But because we have a deficit in licenses, we treat that as a new application.
Okay.
So if anyone tries to upgrade, even in this process, it's a new application that if they are successful in going through the whole process, they're part of that December 6th deadline that we would review.
So, para la gente que están poniendo atención, I'm going to say this in Spanish because I get this a lot from that cohort of folks, que si ya usted tiene una licencia para vender cerveza y vino solamente, pero quiere tener una licencia para vender alcohol como ron y todas esas cosas, tienen que aplicar por una licencia nueva en este proceso. Y when is the deadline? If they want to meet the December 6th, when is the deadline?
That's the deadline. So
11:59.
anyone that submits
But they
this-
have to start when to
Right now.
Tienen que comenzar hoy, ahora mismo, para asegurarse que puedan ser considerado para el día 6 de diciembre, y si no el día 6 de diciembre, el próximo es May. Is that the next round in May?
We'll share that later on,
Okay.
probably by the end of this month.
So, si no pueden en diciembre, van a haber dos más
And this, but definitely the
oportunidades
spring of 2025 is when the next one.
en la primavera, pero tienen que poner atención.
And just for clarification and my clarification purposes, the beer and wine license, if I hold a beer and wine license, am I able to sell that beer and wine license and then apply for one of these liquor licenses? Or am I able to, do I have to like turn that in to the board? And I'm kind of asking because I
Sure.
was at the informational session.
We talk about that all the time. It's been the policy of the board for the last 10 years that should someone apply for a new all alcohol license, that they do turn in their beer and wine license. And then we would return that to the community and match that up with an application that's looking for a beer and wine license.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, if you want to stay for the second round of public testimony, you're free to stay, but appreciate all your hard work.
Thank
on
you.
this.
And thank you.
Thank you, councilors. And we're looking
Really
forward to
appreciate
hosting
it.
more sessions with you all.
Yes, looking forward to it.
And doing one in Spanish.
Yes. We will now move forward again with public testimony. When your name is called, please come down to one of the two podiums. State your name, neighborhood, and/or organization affiliation. Please speak into the microphone, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes. And sorry if I get your name wrong, but Jonathan?
Jonathan.
Jonathan, okay.
He's Latino, they spell it with a Y,
They
but it's the
spell it
same.
with-
It's Jonathan.
Jonathan. And then followed by Manuel.
Thank you to the City Council and the Chair for allowing me to be here today. The Chair has gone, but I appreciate their hard work. My name is Jonathan Peña, and I'm the founder and operator of La Parada Dominican Kitchen and Starfish Market, which are located in Eggleston Square in Roxbury, zip code 02119, very popular. La Parada's mission is to bring Dominican cuisine to life. We offer fresh, affordable dishes to delight our guests. We are currently awaiting the abutters meeting, which we started last week, the process, and now we are scheduled to meet with the abutters on the October 15. And I thank Jeremiah from the ONS for his rapid response and professionalism in this process. I am fortunate to be spending long hours working in the hospitality industry after spending over 2 decades in biotech industry. I started the process of opening a restaurant in early 2019 by participating in 16 workshops led by Emily Patrick, which was provided by the City Small Business Department. And Emily, you're an amazing person, even though you're not here. I still love you in my heart. I was able to draft my full-service restaurant business plan with the help technical assistant out of those workshops. And then, as you probably remember, the devastation of COVID-19 changed that dream of full-service restaurant. However, during this emergency, I had to evaluate my plans, and I went out and invested my savings, my family and friends' contributions into a different model of a restaurant that is now La Parada, which is well-liked micro-business in the neighborhood. It was a high-risk approach to purchase an existing location, close it and renovate it for 3 months. This is back in 2020, I'm sorry. but I was positive about the future, what the future could bring. And that positive thinking and hard work have brought me here today to tell you that we are working really hard to obtain one of these licenses that will become available to us. Please know that I understand that many people have criticized what the city has done to promote equity and inclusion. I would like to highlight that this is more than that, because this potential license means for us job creation, and more importantly, allowing our community to have a space that can be used to create memories together with families and friends, and that's why I'm in the hospitality business. I thank you for your dedication and support our citizens of this great city. I wish that we work together with the city and the regulators to make this process much better for everyone. As I heard many of the comments made by the public, it's very hard. It's difficult, but not impossible. But if we can make it better, we will all benefit. My biggest partner in becoming a better micro-business operator has been the City of Boston Small Business Department. I have received grant for legal assistant, technical assistant for business plan, writing business plan, redesigning my website, and currently I'm working to receive funds to bring to my business a new equipment that is going to provide healthy food for the residents, for the community. And I could go on and talk about all the good benefits that the city provides to us. And I encourage everyone to really reach out, because the opportunities are there. And I'm a perfect example of that. Someone that had no experience working in a restaurant industry to now to be a proud owner of two of them. Like I mentioned, La Parada Dominican Kitchen in Eggleston Square, and right across the street, Starfish Market, which is, that establishment has been there since, it's almost 40 years. And we hope that with our energy and the help of the community, we can make it better. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Manuel, followed by Royal.
Buenas. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Manuel Rosas. I'm one of the owners of what's called Bono Restaurant and Catering. We are located in East Boston, Meridian Street, zip code 02128. When I opened this business, 2019, 8 months prior to the pandemic, we didn't have any idea. So we opened it with as a bakery concept. And when we started emerging and doing better, the pandemic hit. Our neighborhood, our street was never the same. Something that we haven't acknowledged is that the restaurant business has changed so much. And a lot of times, ideas that used to work don't work anymore. So I turned, my sister and myself, we turned it into a convenience store because we saw the big lines of chores, and that helped us just at least get some money to pay the utilities. But it was never the same. The concept was never the same. We were about to close it. That was one of the things that when I saw my restaurant outside, I was like, wow. I had the ugliest restaurant in East Boston. It breaks my heart because I put my heart into it. But then something changed. The community got together and they helped me. So we turned into a Bono restaurant, and but we started the process of getting a license around 2020. And one conversation that I will never forget was that when I went to the hearing, they were like, Fernando, it used to be called La Casa del Pan de Bono. So they are like, La Casa del Pan de Bono is applying for a liquor license. The owner, Manuel Process, is here. Before I went to speak, they're like, deny. And I was like, what happened? You're no U.S. citizen. So I wasn't a U.S. citizen. And this is one of the things that Consul Julian Mejia brought up, is the fact that sometimes we spend so much time doing labor that we forget the important part too, that's administration. So that was like, wow, that was like a big splash, like big slap in the face. My citizenship was in the process, but because of COVID, it took a while for me to get it. But I spent so much money on lawyers, hearings, and one of the facts that Consul Mejia brought up is I didn't have the money. So literally I brought all my saves to like invest in this, try to like bring something, a new revenue stream into the restaurant. I was desperate, and it didn't work. And I ended up transferring everything to my ex-wife so she could apply, because she was a U.S. citizen. And these are the process that you actually go through, but like everybody is scared. A small business owner like me, you're like, you're good at treating your customers, creating establishment, creating products, putting everything out there. But when it comes to legal stuff, you can get a little bit shaky. So anyways, 2023 came, and the reason why I get a little bit like shaky as well about this is because we were about to shut down the restaurant. My sister is like, I think we need to go back and get a job. And so we did a fundraiser, and the community came together and gave us some money. So we're grateful. We changed the name of the restaurant. We became a restaurant, and we got a license 3 months ago. So that's, for me, that's my dream. I'm sorry if I get this, but I just want to speak like this because I am friends with a lot of small business owners who are struggling. They have no money. And I want to make sure that I'm speaking to you guys so you guys can see that a lot of times we have like we call it payaso face. We smile. Hey, how's it going? Everything is good. But sometimes the business is not doing well. Now, after 3 months of having the liquor license, after a lot of money spent, it's very well worth, we're getting more customers. Our neighbors are more happy. They actually consider us as a restaurant, not a takeout place. And most importantly is they don't have to leave the neighborhood anymore. They don't have to go to Seaport. They don't have to go to Boston to spend money. They actually just need to walk down a restaurant, have a couple drinks, have some food. So I hope that what I brought to the table is important for you to know. Yes, 250 licenses are very important, but if you don't take any action right now, a lot of small businesses are going to die. I was one of them, and I'm glad I survived from the death. Thank you.
Thank you. Royal?
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Royal Smith. I'm the owner of District 7 Tavern and District 7 Cafe, co-founder of the Boston Black Hospitality Coalition. I'm just happy to be here. This is a big thing for the industry. I'm from Roxbury. This is huge. I've said this before, this is going to change the skyline of Boston. But this is also growth of an industry, right? So, yeah, licensing is major. We're here. there's also other things that we need to consider just as a city. We're an old city. We're the first city, you know? And as we do this, you know, there's other industries that may be, you know, using this moment to, you know, monopolize on things. You know, we have a lot of old buildings. You know, I'm going through a hood situation where, you know, that's another $200,000. There's, you know, codes, plumbing, you know. So I just ask that maybe we do a focus group. You know what I mean? Really get some one thing about restaurant operators, it takes passion, it takes time. If you get them in a room, not in this chamber, they'll dish it all out, and they'll tell you everything. And maybe that's a good place to start because, yeah, licensing is this, but, you know, a $200,000 plumbing bill is another thing. Sprinklers is another thing. Hoods are another thing. And these are all of the, you know, aspects that we have to look at when starting a restaurant. You know, that's all I got. Other than that, this is a good job, everybody here. And the only reason why we're here is because we believe in growth. We believe in growth of the city. And in order to keep that momentum going, we just have to have real conversations about what it's going to take so these businesses survive. This is an 80-20 industry. 80% of the businesses fail. We don't want to be a part of that. And, you know, I say all of this, you know, a lot of this is related towards food and stuff because a lot of the part of this bill, you know, food is required. So that's all I got. Thank you guys, and thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you to everyone who came and offered testimony. And I think we heard from those who came to testify the impact that these liquor licenses not only have on you know, a community being able to gather in their neighborhoods, but on the lives of individuals and entrepreneurs, and how it, you know, breeds hope and is also just a lifeline to restaurateurs and entrepreneurs. And that was the intention of this liquor license bill, is that, you know, there's many more Manuels out there that we can make their dreams come true, and many more neighborhoods that, you know, Manuels can open up in, that neighborhoods and residents could just walk down the street and enjoy, you know, the local cuisine in their neighborhood, you know, right there in their community. So I'm excited about this legislation, but as I said in the earlier statements, that implementation and the rollout is just as important as the policy, and as Royal just mentioned, that support. We have to just make sure that we are supporting these businesses, not just on the liquor licenses side, but also on the operational side, right? What it takes for a restaurant to convert to a sit-down restaurant, you know, whether it's the plumbing, whether it's the HVAC, whether it's the hood, and there's probably plenty of other things that I'm not aware of that, you know, maybe a focus group could work. So definitely we'll talk it over with my council colleagues to kind of continue next steps. But I think it's important to continue the conversation, especially knowing that this is the first year of us distributing liquor licenses. So for us to, you know, all stay tuned to what that looks like, to understand like how that rollout happens, and then us to make sure that, you know, we have 2 other times to perfect the rollout of the next 2 years, but we're still focused on making this rollout as effective as possible. So I'll pass it off to Councilor Mejia for closing remarks.
Thank you. And so I really do appreciate, the best part of these hearings for me is really hearing from people who are doing the work and or living the realities, because then and only then can we really get things right. So I just really want to thank you all for staying here as long as you did and for bringing so much of yourselves into this chamber. And I am hoping, and I made an assumption that the administration worked alongside the coalition members to determine what the communication and rollout plan was going to be. And so I don't know that I'm not sure, I can't confirm nor deny that happening, but if it didn't happen, I think it's an important opportunity for us for the next go-round of the process for that focus group to happen in collaboration with. So it should be a reflective hearing where we could all talk about what worked and what didn't and what we need to do better the next time, and then that focus group could include community voices. So I just really want to, I made an assumption, and too bad that they're gone, so I can't ask them, but that's an afterthought that I gotta get on the record. But anyways, I think as we continue to navigate these conversations, I think it's gonna be really important, Councilor Roral, for us to, the transparency of the process is where I think we can really restore trust in government, because I think that people still feel like it's those who have the best access and the most capital or have the best friends inside these chambers that are really going to get access. And I think that that is real, and we need to be the stewards of this process in ways that people can feel a sense of hope. And I hope that this hearing has left you all feeling a little bit better about what is possible, and knowing that you have people on the council that are going to work alongside you every step of the way to make sure that we get this right. And le quiero dar las gracias a toditos ustedes que están aquí. Yes, I speak two, not just one, but I'll break it down in your own tongue. I'll be speaking Spanish for the rest of this. Is that it's really important for us to understand that es bien importante para nosotros darse cuenta que esta conversación tenemos que hacer todo lo posible para que todo el mundo entienda las oportunidades que hay y el proceso, porque si no van a ser las mismas personas que se van a beneficiar. Entonces, por eso que parte de la conversación, the next hearing that we have, Councilor Roral, I'm going to ask that we have interpretation in Haitian Creole and Spanish, just because I think that from an equity lens, I think that those two languages look in Mandarin and Chinese. I think that we need to be prepared for the equity conversation, and equity includes information justice, and information justice includes making sure that people of diverse backgrounds and languages are also able to participate and understand what is happening here.
Thank you. Just want to lastly just thank everyone who made this happen. I know I listed off a few names in the beginning, but also just want to again thank Royal, Stephen Miller, Dennis Quilty, the team over at Prince LaBelle, Yanni and Luther, my team, Dustin, Therese, and my current team, Anushri, Matt, Abdullah, the whole team on making this happen. Also to Central staff, Michelle, Megan, everyone who made this happen, and also to Ron and IGR in the administration. And with that said, this docket on hearing, on docket number 1392 is adjourned.